from Loitering in Wonderland Studios. With Phoenix West.
Hello, citizens. Welcome to Things That Will Burn Hell. I'm Phoenix West, and I hate fantasy. I hate fantasy everything. I really do. I will give a couple things a pass on being fantasy. And by fantasy, I mean books and movies and TV shows. That's pretty much pop culture fantasy. I used to hate Harry Potter. I appreciate the movies now. I don't want to read the books, that's for sure. I used to hate Lord of the Rings. It's okay. It's passable. I don't hate it like I used to. I like... What's that one fucking show? With the titties and dragons. Tit Dragons. The Epic Journey. That's what it's called. I like that show. I don't remember anyone's name. And this is my big problem with fantasy is it's just random names based on nothing. And you just throw characters and name them this and throw them in this world. And it's so easy to create danger because you're just making up the danger. And then you just make up how they get out of it because they have a magic sorcerer's stone. And then they float around on things, or they can go invisible, or they can do this. And it's just whatever you can imagine thrown into a movie, thrown into a book. So I'm like, if you could just change the rules at any moment, I don't give a fuck. This is why I like sci-fi. It's the thinking man's fantasy. They set up the rules, and it's bad sci-fi if they change the rules halfway through. Fantasy doesn't have to do that. They can do whatever the fuck they want. If they just want your character to fly to get around the guy, suddenly something will show up where they can fly. And it really keeps you guessing, I'll give it that. It's suspenseful in the fact that I don't know how they're going to get out of this, because they can just do whatever the fuck they want, apparently. It doesn't matter. I don't like that. It's nonsense. It's like it's like a 4-year-old sat down with a script and just went, what do I want to see? Well, he flies. He goes invisible at times. Not all the time, because that'd be ridiculous. I'm a 4-year-old. We got to have some sort of structure. So, and then he can change into other people because he wants to. But only when he has the heart stone of Aquarium Mantis. And you just add on words at the end of it, and therefore you have a sci-fi epic. Fuck you. Fuck you, fantasy. Let's talk about it.
Things That Will Burn in Hell, number 89, Fantasy. Want to be a writer, but you're too lazy to do research? Well, grab your pen and welcome to the world of fantasy. It's literally anything you can think of. Fucking write it. Can't think of a good name for a town? Just throw a bunch of clumsy syllables next to each other and suddenly your characters will live in Yep, Grendeldown. I love that place. Oh, but of course it can't be inhabited by humans. No, sir, that's absurd. Let's give them special powers that they receive from some sort of ancient somebody that is mentioned on a single page that is only used as a vice for the writer to use so they don't have to think of a logical reason for the characters to have powers. I mean, this is our story, so let's just say that Blumenhauer the Magic Wizard gave the village of Grendeldown the powers to settle some sort of fantastical gambling debts to the town. Maybe we'll make another reference to Blumenhauer toward the second act by having our main character Rowan? Yeah, Rowan. Rowan can walk by a statue of Blumenhauer and be like, "The town beseeches thee, O great Blumenhauer. We come for our powers at long last." And the statue will come to life and give them all powers. Then Rowan, who by the way isn't human, but instead a 5-fingered, skin-covered biped with 2 eyes and 2 thumbs that speaks Old English and has more hair than he should, but not human. Anyway, he's got to deliver some fantasy football notes to the ancient city of Hazendorf. Yeah, so he heads up to Hazendorf to deliver the notes to the great Hazendorf dwarf so he can score points with his friend's sister, because he's totally getting looks from her and she's into that sort of thing. So he's on his way, walking of course, because fantasy gasoline is way too fucking expensive. There's a dwarf war going on, of course. Along the way, Rowan runs into some flying wolves or some monkeys with spiked collars who rough him up and take away his notes. So then Rowan totally hires some dudes. Get this, he befriends 3 people. One is an old wizard who everyone thinks is past his magical prime and he has to prove them all wrong. The second one is a girl who's totally into hairy non-humans who are brave enough to travel 2.5 miles on foot in a magical kingdom. Rowan lusts after her. He also wonders why she keeps flirting with his third friend, who happens to be a black guy. Not magic at all, just some black guy. But since black guys always die first, Rowan figures it's a good insurance policy. Oh yeah, the black guy is really a spy from a fantasy football competitor, but you don't find that out until the third act. Sorry if I ruined the story. With his new friends, Rowan sets out to retrieve the notes. They all battle a giant lizard called, I don't know, Jose the Lizard or something. At this point, the audience is already pissed, so you can pretty much do whatever the hell you want. Rowan cuts Jose's head off, and the girl drips buckets when she sees that. She's totally into him now, but they can't do it because this is a kid's movie. So they track down the monkeys who stole the notes at the top of a castle, and Rowan tricks them using Hairy Man magic. They flee like a bunch of pussies and the monkeys follow. They arrive at the gates of Hazendorf and must pass a series of tests to gain access to the town. Rowan tops the town's best archer using ancient Grendeldown tactics he learned from his father when he was young, who by the way died protecting fantasy football nuts. That probably would have been better to introduce earlier on, but who needs backstory when it matters? So it turns out this is all a scheme put on by the owner of the notes to bring Rowan to him. The black friend churns and says he's been working for the owner the entire time. Then the owner kills him for being a peon. Rowan finally stands up for his girlfriend, and his old friend finally pulls off a great magic trick and kills the owner of the notes. It's then revealed that the owner of the notes was none other than Rowan's father. Rowan kills the old wizard and takes over his father's position in the great town of Hazendorf. His woman isn't sure what to do, so she leaves. In the sequel, she turns him to the good side. Then in the third installment, he turns evil again, only to destroy the town of Hazendorf and dies in the fire. He becomes a great ghost or something and spends the rest of eternity protecting his home village of Grendeldown from outsiders. Still think it's hard to write fantasy? Seriously, polish that up a bit by writing a couple drafts and you got yourself some quality fantasy. By the way, the word quality in that last sentence was facetious. Fuck fantasy books, fuck fantasy movies, fuck fantasy sports, fuck fans of tasty things or anything that sounds or looks like fantasy.
Fucking wish I could go invisible right now. Never see fantasy again. Still not invisible. Shit. Oh, hey. Welcome back to the show. You never left the show. What am I doing? Anyway, so fantasy, not a fan. I don't get it. The story I made up in that segment that I recorded 6 to 8 months ago, I really did. I have no memory of it. But I know the chapter fairly well. I think it's Grendeldown or Grendeldown, and then some sort of hairy elf magic guy, and then he returns evil in the sequel, something like that. I don't remember what it was. You just watched it. I haven't read it or read from it. Whatever. I'm forgetting words right now, but it's okay because I was going invisible for a second, and I'm back. So that was fantasy right there in a nutshell. I wanted to get out of an awkward situation, so magic made me. Maybe sci-fi is fun because there's not magic really. If there is, they explain why there is magic. And fantasy is just like, oh, there's fucking magic, dude. You got to deal with that shit. Get beyond that shit because we're not explaining it. It's just part of life. Here we are. Welcome to it. Deal with it, bitch. There's magic, and that's just the way it is. So you better fucking grab onto these reins and stay along for the ride because it's not going to make any goddamn sense after this. Just like this segue. Go to liwstudios.com. Check out the shows. Check out the podcast. Loitering Wonderland Studios on YouTube. Forgetting what I'm saying here. And then you send an email. No, fucked it up. Go to no, fucked it up. LoiteringWonderland@gmail.com. I'm just a slur past it. I don't care. And then patreon.com/LoiteringWonderland Studios. Until next time. And in the meantime, I'll be saving the Smurf warriors from the hell demon dog warriors. There's a lot of warriors apparently. From the epic floating flying ninja eagles because I'm a 4-year-old and that's how 4-year-olds think. In hell. So long, citizens.